Hi, Wiley here with ClickRigs, and today we're going to assemble the FP01, otherwise known as the Flying Pancake. It has, working suspension. It's got a flatbed so that you can attach a lot of other things to it, but it's not the most tunable kit. It was really optimized just for its toughness. Here we go. Let's get into it. I like to lay out all of the pieces. We've got the Domino Dominator chassis, which every rig in the ClickRigs lineup uses. This is CNC machined out of billet aluminum. Got your A bag, which is usually the accent color parts. Got your B, just the main body color parts. And you've got your C bag, which is the elastomer parts, the flexible parts. Tires and bearings. Now I usually like to leave the tires and the bearings in the bag for now. And we'll just lay everything out. Chassis, container, and the snap dots are really the key to the whole ClickRig system. There's essentially a hole, and that faces up. And so what you want to do is you want to not put it in crooked. So essentially you just line it up so that it's evenly contacting all around the pocket hole. If it starts going in crooked, it'll be pretty much impossible to correct. So your best bet is just to stop pushing it in, pull it back out, and start over and get a nice evenly engaged alignment before you press straight in. Now the other way to do it is with this tool. All of the kits include this little tool. Sometimes it just makes it a little bit easier. And for that, so essentially you can pick up a snap dot, just like so. Press it in like that. I like to kind of pull a bunch of the snaps out. We're going to do these by hand. This video is time-stamped, so if you don't want to watch me put all the snaps in, feel free to skip ahead to the next section. Some people do actually enjoy watching me do this, though. We're just going to do this for all of the parts. There are kind of two strategies to this. You can put the snap dots on all of the parts first, which is what I like to do, and then click everything together. Or you can insert the snap dots as you go, part by part, as you click them together. No one way is necessarily better than the other. I just tend to enjoy getting into the flow of putting all the snap dots in. All right, put it down. Can be somewhat relaxing. And so right there, I got one in crooked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some pliers, pull it out. kind of grab the edge, comes right out, no problem. Sounds a little bit crooked as well, so I'm gonna
Well, if you're still here, I guess maybe I'll read to you some of the lore as written down and often told around a campfire by Gary the Elder, the resident historian of Harley Dome. Perhaps I'll start with a piece of his about what it means to waste tape inside of Harley Dome. So here he is, in the words of Gary the Elder. Ah, now here's a tale for the ages, an unspoken understanding amongst the domers. You see, in Harley Dome, long after the bubble had sealed them off from the world, one thing became more precious than gold or gasoline: VHS tapes. Yes, those old black cassettes, once used to capture the daring feats of racers and daredevils, became more than that, became the lifeblood of the town of Harley Dome. Back in the days before the incident, tapes flowed like water. The videographers would swarm the desert, recording every jump, every skid, every gravity-defying stunt. A stack of fresh VHS tapes arrived with each supply truck that rumbled into town. But when the bubble closed around Harley Dome, it didn't just trap the people. It sealed off everything inside it, including the last remaining stock of VHS tapes. At first, no one thought much of it. After all, there were enough tapes to go around for a while. But as time passed, something shifted in the town. The domers, always craving the rush of speed, found themselves needing those tapes for more than just recording memories. They needed them to keep the spirit of the town alive. For in Harley Dome, you weren't truly anyone unless your exploits were captured on tape, replayed on that towering jumbotron in the square, with the crowd hooting and hollering as you flew down a canyon trail or tore through the desert sands. And so, slowly but surely, the tapes became more than a way to capture adventures. They became currency. A single VHS tape could be traded for food, for parts to repair your rig, or even for a favor from one of the more skilled domers. But as the years rolled on and the stockpile dwindled, the tapes took on a life of their own. To waste tape on the mundane, on anything that wasn't a feat of speed or bravery, was the worst offense you could commit. Legend has it that old Wiley Brooks, an engine mechanic whose skills were second to none, once wasted a tape filming nothing more than a quiet afternoon fixing his rig. The town was furious. What fool spends the most valuable thing we've got on something as dull as nuts and bolts? They said. The jumbotron was sacred, meant for moments that made the blood race and the heart pound. After all, tapes were now as rare as a perfect downhill run, and wasting one was like throwing away a chance at immortality. Now, the mundane and the sublime mean different things to different people, so it's most likely true that old Wiley had different opinions than most on what constituted dull, but the consensus had been set, for better or for worse. You see, in Harley Dome, those tapes didn't just store images, they stored hope. A person's worth was measured not in what they owned, but in what was captured on those reels of magnetic tape. When the jumbotron played a driver's stunt, whether it was the daring leap over Dead Man's Gorge or a gravity-powered attempt at the exit loop, that driver's name echoed through the town. They became part of the town's myth, immortalized in grainy footage. Their legacy is indelible as the sun-worn cliffs. But with so few tapes left, and only 10 or so overdubs before the image was mud, every inch of tape counted. There's an old story told around the fire, just like this one, about a man named Jeb Hollywood Wilkins. They say that Hollywood found an entire cache of unopened VHS tapes in the belly of a collapsed gas station, half inside and half outside the bubble. Hundreds of tapes in total, each one fresh in its cellophane wrapper. But Hollywood didn't hoard them or trade them off for riches. No. He did something even more daring. He decided to use them all, without wasting a single inch. One by one, he recorded the wildest stunts the town had ever seen. He raced down the steepest dunes, jumped the widest canyons, and bomb-dropped the highest cliffs, all in the span of a single summer. Every night, the town gathered to watch Hollywood on the Jumbotron, as the tapes rolled endlessly, showing a man who seemed more like a force of nature than a mortal driver. But when the last tape rolled, and Hollywood had nothing left to give, he disappeared into the desert, leaving only his legend behind. His story became a cautionary tale, a reminder that in Harley Dome you could burn bright, but only so long as you had tape to document your fire. Today, as the supply of tapes dwindles to just a handful, the Domers are more careful than ever. Every new stunt, every new adventure must be weighed. Is it worthy of being captured? If you waste a tape on the mundane, on anything less than greatness, you've not just thrown away a piece of plastic. You've wasted a piece of Harley Dome's soul. The old folks say the town's heart beats in time code, as the Jumbotron, flickering to life every night, plays back the memories of those who dared to live fast and wild. And so the tapes, worn as they are, carry our legacy on, both currency and culture, the last remnants of a world that once stretched beyond the bubble, now shrinking with every precious reel.
So now we're putting in the snap studs. And those go in, the thicker part goes into the snap hole, and what it does is it basically converts it into a snap stud instead of a snap dot. This, not every hole gets one. You just kind of want to essentially ring the perimeter, and sometimes giving them a little twist as you put them in can help. And they're almost like little joysticks, so you kind of want to make sure they're more or less straight up. And for this kit, so these cabs are used for other kits as well. So not every hole needs one, but essentially it's just like that. Three in the front, three in the back. All right, so now we're going to put together the kit. We'll start snapping together the layers. And so how the ClickRigs system works is it's all built. We have three primary component types. You have chassis, which basically have a snap dot on each side, so they're symmetric. And then you've got a connector, which looks like this, that has snap dots on one side and snap studs on the other. Now, chassis are all 10 millimeters in height, whereas connectors, when they're snapped together, are 5 millimeters in height. And so, essentially, starting with the chassis, you build down and you build up with connectors. And with connectors, you can keep adding more and more connectors as high as you want to go. But then at the top and at the bottom layer, essentially when you're done building, we have what are called caps. And caps essentially mean that you can no longer keep building with all of the various components, because there's something about it that essentially makes it so that you can't keep going. In the case of this skid plate cap, it's because there's snap studs on one side and it's just smooth on the other. So obviously you can't keep building. Or in the case of this cab, there are some snap dots on top so that you can add some accessories and connect some other things, but they're not in the full grid pattern. And so you can't just lay any part on top, only specific parts. So cabs are usually considered a cap as well. Same with the fenders. Again, snap studs on one side, but nothing on top. So this effectively terminates the layer at that point. So you got chassis, which can be built off of in either direction. You've got connectors, which are designed to be stacked, and you have caps, which effectively terminate it. So those are the three types of components in the ClickRigs system. The other type of component would be suspension. Usually these are flexible members or linkages of some kind. In this case, the swing axle for the FP01 basically allows some simple but very effective suspension movement. Let's start building the layers. Start with layer 1. Layer 1 always starts with the chassis and usually the first bottom layer, but it's the chassis layer plus whatever the next logical layer is. So in this case, layer 1. Here, I'm going to take the two skid plate components, which is a 3x5 cap, and we're going to snap it in 2 lines to the bottom of the chassis. So you'll end up with something that looks like that. Then we're going to take these chassis components snap them in just like that. Then we're going to take our swing axles, and these can go either direction, but I'm going to snap those in place there. You can see a little gap goes up so the suspension can move up. You can take another chassis component. This is a 1x5. Snap it in just like that. And that is layer 1. So as you can see, got the bottom layer of caps, which means we're pretty much not building any other layer below that. The caps are ending the layer on the bottom right out of the gate. And then you've got these components kind of in your layer 1. So now let's build layer 2. I'm going to take the white connectors, because these little accents, just like that. Take the 3x3 connector, one by 3 connector, fill in that cap. And we'll take the 1x7. A white one. That one is going to go right down the middle, racing stripe, and then the other 2 yellow 1x7s on either side of it. Just like that. Now the fenders have a left side and a right side. And so these fenders, you can see the open side faces outboard, and they've got, look at it kind of from the side, they have a steeper side and a more sloping side. The sloping side goes toward the front, which in this case is this side. So now the front and rear fenders are the same, but snap on like so. I'm going to take the cab and snap it on in between the fenders, right behind that white 1x3. Now, we're going to take out our tires and bearings. And take our wheels. I like to put the bearings in first. And on these wheels, there's a smaller diameter end and a larger diameter end. The bearings press into the larger diameter side. Just kind of snap in place. Just like that. Sometimes you get a little hair, you pull it out. It doesn't matter which way the bearings go in. So now, we're going to mount the tires. Essentially, you just take the tire like that, and just kind of pull it over and center it up. Should be good. Like that. Now we'll put the tires on. Now again, when you mount these up, you see there's a side that the bearing is closer to the outside of the wheel, the side where it's farther away. The side where the bearing's closer goes inboard, so that's the side you press into the axle. For that, you just pop it on. You just kind of push it all the way up until it bottoms out on this little ridge. On that little ridge right there. Close up. And there it is. That is the completed FP01 flying pancake. And that's the assembly process. Now let's watch it in action.